Good morning, dear listener. For some persons, it's long overdue. For some persons, we can't breathe, and now there's a breath of fresh air by the presidential broadcast on this issue. My condolences go to those that lost loved ones, and I wish for quick recovery for those that were injured during the protest. Amici, I also appeal to my colleagues in journalism to be careful how they cast their headlines. Some people rushed to cast headline this morning to say that the president had given all all tender to be legal until April 10th, until they had to quickly come and correct them. We need to be circumspect in such things. It's a very sensitive issue. We don't just jump and say the president had given order for all denomination to be legal. No, he only said the 200 naira to be legal until April 10th, and he said if you are mopping up, you go to the CBN, follow the procedure that you read out the other day here. Amici, but the worry that we have is the position El-Rufai is taking. El-Rufai has come out to respond to an online publication by The Cable, saying that there was several meetings with progressive governors and what have you.
And the presidency officials.
But he's saying in a statement he released from his spokesman, Muiwa, that some federal government officials that put a phone call through to him and some others, and they spoke, and they were trying to convince them to settle out of court and with the proposal of this 200 naira. And we're expecting his broadcast. He says he's going to have an address the Kaduna State people.
Or he'll do his own broadcast as the state chief executive.
Yes. So we also have to be careful.
Perhaps you will tell them continue to spend the old notes. You see, that will be contrary to the president's statement. He may say the Supreme Court said so.
Yes. Now, but the question I would like to ask, maybe we'll need to bring in a lawyer to explain this to us. Some persons say the president in affront of the Supreme Court
ruling,
is making this this broadcast. When you look, the Supreme Court order is interim. Maybe I don't know grammar very well, but interim, in my understanding, means temporary. It's not a final order. It's not a final judgment. It's an interim order, and I don't think anything is wrong if the president gives a directive to CBN to ensure that he calm the crisis going on. Maybe when TV comes in, the last paragraph of the president is what also interests me on the election 2023. TV, maybe let's talk on the currency first before we go into the election.
Amici, good morning to you. Good morning, listener. For those who had doubts that this policy was targeted at elections, that particular paragraph that you mentioned clears all doubts that the election, and the president was specific. He said they were electing a president and was a National Assembly member. He did not even mention the governorship and House of Assembly, so clearly we know which direction he said. To my concern, when the opening paragraph, he said, I have found it necessary to address you today on the state of the nation. Besides this Naira crisis, the state of the nation also is that there's no fuel. I was also hoping that he will address that, but he never even turns towards that side. I don't know which kind of reports he's getting, but across the country, people are still on queue. Abuja might have eased. NNPC is also saying they're moving huge number of trucks to Lagos, and all of that. But other parts of the country is not the situation. I can tell you in Benue State, for instance, they're buying a liter at 450 naira. So I think this is what the president, if he's state of the nation, that he
sorry, 150 naira or
450. So you're talking of what the president did not say that he should have said.
And for what he said, some persons are already saying, look, he's an affront on the Supreme Court and all of that.
What do you think?
I'm not a lawyer, so I'll give my layman's.
But you're educated.
Yes.
Give us an educated
perspective. The Supreme Court said they redesign notes, because as at yesterday, when the issue was raised as to contempt of court, that the decision was not implemented, the judges said, look, that order subsists. Which means it will be the exchange and all of that should continue up till Wednesday, when a hearing would possibly happen. So that is what it is. And in the president's,
do you think? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, in the president's address, I think what perhaps tempers with that position of the Supreme Court is the April 10 deadline he has set. I think that is what has tempered with it, because obviously we're still going to be using what is it called now, the 200 naira. And don't forget, when the three state governments went to the Supreme Court, what they were challenging was the deadline. That is what they were challenging. That the deadline was affected, not the policy. And even yesterday, I said that clearly. They were challenging the deadline. They were not challenging whether it's 200 naira, whether it's 500 naira, whether it's 1,000. It's the deadline. So for the president to say 60 days, it means he has tempered with that deadline. I wish
for specific day,
yes. I wish he had not mentioned April 10. So just say, the 200 naira will continue.
For 60 days.
Clearly, for 60 days. That's up to from February 10 to April 10. Clearly.
So do you think the president was in violation of the Supreme Court ruling? From your educated, not learned perspective.
Amechi, you recall, in this point when we are at the crossroads like this, we had the doctrine of necessity. We have a situation where we need a political solution. And I think this is a part of that process.
Was this because the newspapers were speculative of the fact that some presidency officials reached out to some governors,
federal government officials,
presidency they called it. So they tried to put some of these on the table. According to El-Rufai, the meeting never held. They just spoke on phone and they rejected that. So if they rejected them, that means there was no political agreement. And part of the agreement was that the governor should withdraw the case.
Why I say so is the broadcast is a win-win for everybody. If you were against the February 10 deadline, you now have more days to use at least one of the currencies. And if you were also said, look, the deadline should end. The other currencies will not be used. So that's why I say it's political. It does not necessarily mean that they would have agreed. And I think that the three governors, because the other 5 or 6 that are joining, if these three governors withdraw that case, then before those ones join, the matter is as good as dead. The president has appealed, and I think they should listen to that. And that is one fundamental thing that I took away from what the president said. He has appealed to understanding of Nigerians, and I think those.
So if you're suffering, you're finding it extremely difficult to carry out transactions, and the president appeals to you, to what extent will that appeal ameliorate your suffering? In real terms.
Measures have also been. He said, look, let's deploy, bring back the 200. That is part of, and that obviously CBN will have to print more, but except you are saying he should have said that policy, I roll it back and all of that, which is what
I'll to you. Agree. Let me ask Teva another question. Do you think the president was pressured into doing this broadcast because of the disturbances? Several cities, people were attacking banks yesterday.
The reports we have indicate that there were about 8 states and the FCT, that was affected. And when
FCT was also affected.
That's what the reports were having. And when I looked at that, I took my mind to what happened in Yola. In Yola, Mechi, a crowd of people trooped to the CBN branch in Yola, that's Adamawa State, to swap their old notes.
Same thing in Abuja.
Which is what I expected, in other states people should be doing, and not, protesting in the way and manner, destructive way and manner, which I know is painful. Everybody is affected. If I tell you how this cash crunch has affected me, you won't want to hear. My farm is suffering. I can't I want to expand, get new savings. I cannot because of this. It's affecting me badly. But we have to endure for the national interest.
Now, Apollo, the president stated clearly that part of the objective behind this policy is to stop money politics. So people have been saying perhaps why the president did this is to prevent those that have hidden this 600 billion that the central bank cannot account for, that they want to bring it out on election day with a view to buying votes.
Amici, that is why I maintained my stand yesterday that I said this policy is not anti-people, but is a pro-poor policy. That is why the president is giving, lifting the
Are you sure it's not anti-people? Some
it's
people,
a pro-poor
those that are
policy.
protesting.
Amici, the president reeled out the benefit, the positives of this, with no doubt that this thing will help curb kidnapping for ransom, and issue of corruption and vote buying. But one striking thing, Amici, in all this is what El-Rufai said in his statement, that it will take about 12 months to print 1 trillion naira. So the CBN should come out open to tell us if the minting and printing company has the capacity to print quickly this new note. So the CBN need to clarify on that.
Has the CBN,
take
I think
up
the
to 12
CBN
months
said
to
about
print?
a trillion has been printed.
Just like the CBN governor said when he was addressing the diplomatic, I think some of these political leaders like El-Rufai are pushing this too far. You cannot tell me that
there's an ulterior motive.
I don't think you need 12 months to print 1 trillion. If the same El-Rufai had told us that the CBN has already printed 300 billion.
But the CBN is selling, they have printed about 1 trillion or so.
They've not told us they've not told us how much they printed.
Now, I
only heard they released about 300 or 500 billion.
No, I think
when the deputy governor was addressing the Senate, he said 500 billion at the time, and that more will be printed. So, but El-Rufai came out to say 300. I'm staying with what he said. So, if he said 300 billion has been printed in a span of, let's say,
1 month.
No, not even 1 month, 100 days, like as it is. Why will it take 12 months to produce 1 trillion?
Now,
when you already have the template,
it's just to create,
500 naira, put 500 naira note, not a legal tender. 1,000 naira note, not a legal tender. These are the notes that people use to buy votes. We have covered the election. So is it that by saying we bring back the 200, of course, those that hit this money to be in 200s is in the higher denomination, and the president has given you the lower denomination, but have said this 500, 1,000, you can't use it. You can only return it to the CBN. How will it impact on election on voting day?
Amici, let me take from TV. I think El-Rufai is hitting up this thing. In that same statement, he made mention.
Hitting up?
Yeah, Amici, he made mention.
He's creating right or wrong.
I think he's creating crisis, which I think we should take the appeal of the president very important. He also mentioned that it's a lie. Sorry, this is my own word now, but his statement suggests that he's saying it's a lie. The old 500 naira, 1,000 naira notes have been destroyed by CBN, and that they remain in the commercial bank until 13th
part of
February.
What, not speculative, no quotes. They didn't attribute to anybody. They reported that part of the reason the presidency officials gave the governors in the said meeting they attended with a view to finding a political solution was that the 500 and 1,000 notes that were returned to the CBN were destroyed. So they can't bring them back. That was why El-Rufai is saying no, it's not that. He's saying
they've not been destroyed.
They're still in the bank,
commercial banks, yes.
Yeah, they are votes.
Until February 13. And that's what and today is February 16. So maybe we need evidence, just like the NDLEA used to burn drugs. Maybe CBN should show us evidence of where they bomb, so El-Rufai can rest, rest well.
I mean, you say whether he has gone to court. Yes. The 300 billion he mentioned and all these things that he's talking about, he didn't say them in court. He's saying them outside the court.
Yes,
those are the issues. Those are the issues we're addressing. You also, the president also said 2.7 or so has been recovered, and about a fraction.
2.7 outside. 2.1 recovered, 600 billion unaccounted for.
And I keep asking this question, which is what we should not lose sight of. 50 naira, 20 naira, 10 naira, 5 naira, 100 naira. No.
Some of them in coin.
No, these are notes. The ones I mentioned are notes. They are also a component of this 600 billion you are talking about. They are also a component.
Yes.
So it's possible that the ones that
it's also possible